All right, it's time to check out the California weather forecast. I didn't do a forecast yesterday, so I'm not exactly sure what to expect in terms of timing and totals. Last time that I did check, though, we had a storm coming in today. Doesn't seem like it's arrived yet. And then there's that big storm that was supposed to happen at the end of the week that the model's been all over the place on that. So I'm pretty interested to see how that has changed as well. Just looking at the satellite imagery, yeah, it looks like there's some clouds coming in. That does look like a sort of trough pattern right there. I think the best thing we could do right now is look at the radar and see if there's any radar over California right now or any rainfall. Yeah, it looks like the rain has started to move in. Oh, it's about to come down to the central coast. That's funny. I was saying, oh, it hasn't started yet, and it's literally maybe going to start in about 5 minutes from where I am. Overall, though, looking at the radar, I'm seeing a lot of light to moderate rain. There's maybe a little yellow up in the northwestern portions of the state, which represents the heavier rainfall. But overall, it doesn't look like this is a major system. But we'll figure that out better when we go to the National Weather Service home and look at some of the warnings. And in that regard, the warnings are pretty widespread. So I don't know, maybe it is a major storm. I guess we'll find out right here, see what the top story is. I'm going to be doing this a little bit different than usual. Usually I do this live stream and then I record a 1-minute video right afterwards and then I post that. There will be a little delay on that short form video because I'm actually going to do it at the station in Salinas. Just wanted to get an idea of what's going on with weather before I walk into the station though. The producers, when I first walk in, will always ask me like, oh, do we need maybe like weather at the beginning of the show? Is there anything big going on? And I always feel bad when I don't have an answer to that question because I haven't been looking at it recently. So this is me preparing for the day. So let's see. This is the San Francisco office. And it says peak wind gusts Wednesday afternoon and evening. And then if you zoom in there, looks like 25 to 33 mile per hour wind gusts. San Francisco is interestingly one of the windiest places. Few areas reaching up to 40 miles per hour. I'd imagine that's in the higher elevations. Bay Area hills and mountains, particularly higher elevations. A little foreshadowing there. Passes and gaps Wednesday afternoon through the evening. So that's because of the system that's moving in. Oh, another round of king tides. Seems like these have been happening a lot recently. And that's what some of the coastal flooding has been about recently, where we're combining king tides with the large surf that we've had. I don't think there's any large surf on the horizon, but I should probably check that as well. So, yeah, let's check it right now. Why not? So let's go on over to Surfline. Let's check. I usually check Ocean Beach. Central Ocean Beach. And oh, it's 8 to 12 feet right now. So right there, I kind of already lied. Yeah, we'll see if that pops up in the warnings at all, if they have any high surf advisories. Looks like it's pretty big the next 2 days, but it doesn't look like it's very good. And that makes sense. You usually have south winds come up when you have a storm moving in. What is a king tide, though? I think this picture summarizes it pretty well right here. So usually your tides happen because of the gravity from the sun and the moon. It's almost like the sun and the moon are literally pulling the water off of Earth. In a way. It at least pulls it more of the Earth's water to one side of the Earth. Now that would be balanced out if the sun and the moon were on opposite sides of the Earth, or even just like not completely lined up, because then you'd have some water pulled this way, some water pulled this way. Where it gets extreme is when you have the sun and the moon in the exact same position, because so then that pulls all of that water to one side of the Earth. And then that's where you'd have a lot of maybe your coastal flooding during those king tides right there. And what's interesting, the one other thing that I know about king tides, or tides in general, is the sun and the moon have a pretty equal force when it comes to how it affects the tides, because the sun is much, much bigger. So it has a lot more gravity, or it has a larger gravitational force. However, it's much, much farther away. whereas the moon is much smaller, but it's much closer. So both of those things actually are somewhat equal in the end. But then when they line up, that's where you get those king tides coming in. So that's January 10th to 12th. So today, tomorrow, and Friday. Glad I know what days of the week it is right now, resulting in minor coastal flooding for vulnerable low-lying areas. Coastal flooding impacts may be exacerbated due to building northwest swell midweek. So I think that's the swell that they're talking about right now. Where we looked at Ocean Beach, does look like there's some pretty decent sized surf today and tomorrow. So not a big surprise, but where you see that green, that bright green color, that is going to be your coastal flood advisory throughout the Bay Area. Let's see what it's saying. In effect from 9 a.m. to noon on Thursday. So you notice with these coastal flood advisories, the window is much shorter than, let's say, a winter storm warning. And that's because it's right around the high tide. So between 9 and noon on Thursdays, where they see the combination of a king tide and the large surf. Oh, and that was one thing I didn't look at on Surfline, is we're looking at tides and I didn't even look at what the tide is actually going to be. So, oh, that's a pretty big tidal swing right there. So today it's a 7 foot to a negative 1.3, and then tomorrow it's a 7.2 to a negative 1.5. So that also explains why it's not going to be that good of surf. Whenever that happens, you get a ton of water rushing out of the bay, and the current is so strong and there's just so much water moving around that you're not going to have organized surf. It also looks like there's westerly to northwesterly winds around 20 miles per hour today. So that must be after the front comes through. And then you have northwesterly winds usually after a front. So coastal flood advisory, that's something to think about. It's not the most serious thing in the world. I imagine the bigger impacts in terms of this forecast are going to be up in the Sierra where you see the winter storm warning. What about this light blue? That is a widespread frost advisory for, where's that stretch? It goes Central Coast all the way up into the North Bay. And then you have a freeze watch in the San Joaquin Valley. So frost advisory, that one's in effect from 3 a.m. to 10 a.m. on Thursday. Temperatures as low as 32 will result in frost formation. Now this is kind of interesting for me to see because on Monday we were looking at Thursday morning perhaps being the coldest day of the year. At least it looked that way for the Sierra. So I just kind of assumed that if the Sierra was 20 to 30 degrees below average, then all of California would see one of its coldest days of the year. But the fact that we don't see freeze warnings means that it's not going to be as cold as Monday, I think was that day we had some of the freeze warnings around there. So frost advisory, yeah, freeze watch, let's check that one out. That's from late Thursday night through Saturday morning. Sub-freezing temperatures as low as 28 possible. So that does have some impacts on agriculture. And yeah, let's go check out actually, I usually like looking at the Sacramento office when it comes to the winter storm warnings because they usually do cool graphics like this. But first I just want to see the summary from the San Francisco office, and this covers the Bay Area even down into the Central Coast. Additional scattered rainfall across much of the area today. Cold overnight temps last through Friday. Yeah, it has been cold recently with frost and freeze potential for inland areas. Rain chances again for Saturday. So that right there is still the question mark in the forecast, is how much rain are we actually going to get Saturday? And we'll look at some maps in a moment, but first we've got a lot of good graphics from the Sacramento office to check out. So it says heavy snow through this evening because we have that system or storm moving in, and it's also going to be cold. We have widespread frost advisories. So if it's cold and you have moisture, that's where you can get some snowfall. So through this evening, January 10th, 1 to 4 inches above 2,500 feet, 6 to 12 inches at highest elevations in advisory area. So that's pretty on track with, I think, what Monday was showing. It was showing a combination between Tuesday and Wednesday system of 12 to 18 inches. Tuesday system's now gone, maybe 6 to 12 inches to come in the highest elevations. 1 to 2 feet, though, above 3,500 feet in the warning area. Locally up to 3 feet at the highest peaks. Okay, so that's actually more than was showing on Monday. But yeah, we'll see what the models are showing. You got to take lots of different sources. And then wind gusts as high as 45 to 55 miles per hour. That actually might be one of the most significant parts of the forecast, just because when you combine that much snow with that much wind, then all that snow is moving around. It reduces visibility and it makes driving very dangerous. So when you look at the impacts, a lot of these are going to have to do with driving. In fact, it looks like almost all of them. Slick and snow-covered roads, reductions in visibility, difficult driving conditions, chain controls, road closures possible. Snow forecast today, yeah, they're still showing 12 to 18 feet. It did say perhaps 3 feet in the highest elevations. What was it? 3 feet at the highest peaks, yeah. And then I always like looking at snow levels, 3,000 to 4,500 feet, lowering to 2,000 to 3,000 feet. So that's some of the lowest snow levels that we've seen this season, which makes me think that this is still going to be a very cold system. And they're showing major impacts with this one. It's probably the kind of triple threat that we have on this. It's heavy snow, it's going to be some gusty winds, and it's going to be exceptionally cold. So rain forecast today. I think this is more for the Sacramento office. I think anything you see up there, that's actually going to be snow. Not much rain, 0.1 to 1/4 of an inch. So it's similar to yesterday's system where it's not that much, except for up in the northwestern portions of the state. That could be over 1 to 2 inches. Sierra snow today, here's a more zoomed in shot. I like how they label it with the different places. Donner Peak, 18 to 24 inches. Blue Canyon, 18 to 24 inches. Kybers, 12 to 18. Echo Summit, 24. So yeah, this is a pretty significant system. And then cold weather safety. I probably don't need to go through that. You know the gist of that. Winter storm warning. If you don't know the gist of cold safety, it's the 4 Ps. You want to look out for people, pets, pipes, and plants. Those are the things that can get hurt from frost or freeze. Winter storm warning remains in effect from 4 a.m. early this morning to 1 a.m. on Thursday. What? Heavy snow expected. Total snow accumulations 1 to 2 feet. Winds gusting as high as 60 miles per hour. So yeah, this could have some pretty significant impacts on travel up in the mountains. It's probably one of the more significant systems that I've seen this season, which, again, it'll have some hazards in terms of travel, but it'll also be good in terms of snowfall. I haven't checked how we are in terms of snowfall. We can. GG. So where I'm going right now is ggweather.com. If you go to weather links and then come down to meteorologist links, there's statewide seasonal rain. I think that's the one that we're looking for. Yeah, this is the one we're looking for. I'm just curious to see what percent of normal we are to date. If we're back to average or we're still below average. I'm seeing a lot of double digits on here, which means we're below average in terms of a rainfall. 73% for San Francisco, 67% for Salinas. Death Valley, 293%. I wonder if that's still from Tropical Storm Hillary or... No, it'd be from October 1st, and Hillary was in mid-August. Paso Robles, 150%. So, yeah, across the board, it looks... Oh, that's last season to date. So that actually might include Hillary on Death Valley. And then this one is rainfall to date, full season normal percent. I'll maybe spend more time looking at this later. But the basic summary there is below average in terms of rainfall. Now let's check out the forecast discussion. So, active weather pattern will persist through the weekend with periods of heavy mountain snow and mountain level impacts. Very cold lows expected Thursday morning. All right, let's actually check out some maps here. Let's go to look at a snapshot of the rain that's expected today first. Then we'll do a snapshot of the snow. That's today's rain. Oh, no. All right, I think that's the first system right there. Not much. And then what about that system towards the end of the week? That looks to be the bigger of the two storms. Now, in terms of snowfall, let's check out total snowfall for California. With this first one, we are already looking at some of the numbers. It looks like the European model doesn't have as much as the National Weather Service was saying. That is some dark burgundy, though, that's pretty widespread. So that's pretty close to National Weather Service, about 12 to 18 inches, 1 to 2 feet. And then with the next system, that's where we start to get into the orange. So it's actually still looking like a pretty big storm on, I believe, Saturday. So we'd be getting into the orange by the end of the week, which would be more than 2 to 3 feet in some places. It's definitely not what it was showing a week ago, though. A week ago, it was showing we had the potential for 7 to 8 feet. So that doesn't seem like it's as much in the cards, but we'll take what we can get at this point in the year. All right, so this is the system coming through right now. 10 a.m. Monday, 1 p.m. No, oh, that's weird. No, 10 a.m. Wednesday, 1 p.m. Wednesday. So pretty close to right now. Light rainfall, but pretty heavy snow up in the Sierra. So it actually looks like the front is coming through right now. You can imagine the front will be stretching from the Santa Cruz Mountains up into the Sierra by about 4 p.m. on Wednesday. But it's not heavy rainfall around the Bay Area or Central Coast, but it is some heavy snow. And then it's gone by about 1 a.m. on Thursday. Play it safe, we could say 4 a.m. on Thursday. And then we have maybe not much throughout much of the day Thursday. And then Friday, 4 p.m., it looks like we start to see the next system come in. And it looks like it sort of hovers up in Northern California till 10 p.m. on Friday. And then it starts to move a little bit farther south, 4 a.m. on Saturday. So that's a decent amount of time where it's just hovering over Northern California. So that's most likely why some of our totals are greater up there. And then that's 7 a.m. Saturday, 10 a.m. Saturday, heavy rainfall from the North Bay up to the northwestern portions of California. Snow in the Sierra. 1 p.m. on Saturday, that looks pretty significant right there. Widespread heavy snow. Widespread heavy rain, and it just kind of keeps continuing. That's all the way into 7 p.m. on Saturday. You see the heaviest snow in that purple color, and then finally it moves down over the Bay Area. And then by 10 p.m. on Saturday, it's over, I'd say, the Central Coast, and then it looks like it's done 10 a.m. on Sunday. So let's just break down the timing on that. It first starts to show up maybe 1 p.m. on Friday up in the very northern parts of the state, and it's still bringing rain and snow until maybe 10 a.m. on Sunday. Now, the exact timing and totals on this will change just because it's still a few days away, but that's looking more significant than what we were looking at on Monday. It seems like it's having the system hover for longer than the models were showing on Monday. On Monday, it looked like it was going to just kind of move through pretty quickly. So what I want to see is, let's maybe go wind gusts on this. Let's go into, so it was Friday to Saturday was mostly when this storm was coming in. Is it that low up there? Yeah, it looks like there's a low up there. You can see how that would be funneling in moisture into the northern parts of the state. That's Saturday at 10 a.m. now. I can actually draw on here. So that's taking moisture from the ocean and pushing it into Northern California while the low itself is still spinning in a counterclockwise motion up here. Then as we click through, windy always makes this go a bit slow. Yeah, the low, as of right now, it's just showing it hover up on the California-Oregon border. So that's why we continue to see precipitation mostly just in the northern parts of the state before the low finally moves down to the east of California. That's where you end up getting some very windy conditions up in the Sierra, 50-mile-per-hour gusts right there. But then that's where it would almost pull this train of moisture in behind it. So that's an interesting system, and it definitely looks very different from. I think the best takeaway there is that the models are changing around a lot. So that's going to be one that we have to kind of stay tuned on. So let's check out the total rainfall expected with this first one. Looks like it's about done by Thursday morning. To play it safe, San Francisco 0.1, Santa Rosa 0.2, Sacramento 0.1, San Jose 0.2. Not much in terms of rainfall. What about this next one? We zoom in all the way through the weekend. Santa Rosa 2.2, San Francisco an inch, San Jose an inch, Sacramento an inch. But then it's the northern parts of the state where that low is just hovering off of, funneling in more and more moisture. That's where we could have 4 to 5 inches, maybe more than that. I don't really want to lock in any timing and totals on this one just yet, just because the models are still moving around a lot. So now let's go check out the snowfall. And click through here. That's the first system. Yeah, this is going to be maybe a major snowstorm up there today. It'll bring some much needed snow, but it'll also lead to some travel concerns. Now let's go through that next one. And you're seeing widespread areas in the Sierra around 2 to 3, maybe more than 3 feet in the highest elevations. And it's pretty widespread as well. So looks like by the end of this weekend, we could make up some of the difference that we've had in terms of rainfall and snow. We need a few more of these, though, to really get us back to where we should be. There's not a whole lot of pressure, though, this year, just because we picked up so much rain last year with all the atmospheric rivers that we had. We're not in a severe drought anymore. Our reservoirs are looking a lot better, so yeah, we'll take what we can get, but it's at least not as crucial. So that, I think, wraps up Northern California. Now let's go down to Southern California. Let's check out their office first. They say high surf and strong rip currents Wednesday to Thursday, moderate coastal flooding threat. I'd imagine king tides may have something to do with this as well. Strong wind, rain chances, and mountain snow Wednesday, Thursday. Mountains, foothills, Santa Barbara County, 50 to 70 mile per hour gusts, isolated up to 80 mile per hour. Remaining coasts and valleys, 25 to 45 mile per hour gusts. So I don't know why this just reminded me of it, but I just remembered that we didn't check how cold the Sierra is going to be. And when we talked on Monday, that actually ended up being the top story of the video. So right there, it's not looking as cold as the models were showing Monday, but it's still looking very cold. That's still 20 to 25 degrees below average. Now on Monday, it was saying 30 degrees below average, but anything more than 10 is pretty significant, and that looks like it's going to be sticking around all the way until maybe Friday, where we're still below average, but at least not arctically cool, to put it dramatically. Let's click into here and actually see what kind of temperatures we'd expect. Early Thursday morning, yeah, 12 for South Lake Tahoe. Let's go into Friday morning, 21 for South Lake Tahoe, 14 for Truckee. All right, so it's not looking as cold as it was in Monday's models, but that's still very cold. You're in the teens at that point. And then looks like Thursday is going to be the coldest morning. Yeah, Thursday and Friday morning both look pretty cold up there. All right, now we're ready for SoCal. So winds and then mountain snow, 2 to 5 inches above 3,000 feet. Grapevine, 2 to 3 inches likely. Hazardous driving, possible delays. Very low wind chills, blowing and drifting snow. Oh, that's also the other combination I forgot to mention is when it's really cold and it's really windy, that also makes it feel a lot colder than it actually is, and it makes your impacts a lot larger. So Southern California has all kinds of warnings. They have coastal flood advisory in effect until noon on Thursday. High surf advisory remains in effect until 9 a.m. on Friday. Says they could have some waves 10 to 15 feet Wednesday and 12 to 17 feet on Thursday with dangerous rip currents. San Luis Obispo County beaches and Santa Barbara County. I was actually thinking of going down to San Luis Obispo tomorrow, so maybe I'll be able to get some footage of this. And then huge tidal swings. Morning high tides are predicted to be at 6.8 feet at 8:10 a.m. and 6.9 feet at 9 a.m. on Thursday. So we've got the coastal flood advisory shown in green. We got the high wind warning. Let's see the timing on this. High winds in effect from 6 p.m. this evening. It's Wednesday right now to noon on Thursday. That's the key point right there. 80 miles per hour possible. That's going to be in your very highest elevations where it's getting funneled through some gaps, but that's still pretty significant right there. And then we have this tiny little winter storm warning as well. And that's in effect from 4 p.m. Wednesday afternoon to noon on Thursday. 2 to 5 inches. And then some gusts 60 to 70 miles per hour, maybe even 80. So travel concerns right there as well. Now let's check out the forecast discussion. We'll just look at the summary here real quick. Oh, they did a pretty long summary. A low pressure system will track over interior California Wednesday into Thursday. We've already looked at that. Bringing strong winds, cold temperatures. Interesting they say cold temperatures. I say cold temperatures too. My mentor tells me it's not actually correct to say cold temperatures. Maybe let me know in the chat. Oh, interesting. Somebody said that there is... yeah, it looks like somebody maybe moderated whatever was going on in the chat. Glad to see that's cleaned up. Thanks for whoever took those spammy comments out. All right, back to the weather. Cold temperatures, mountain and pass level snow, and a chance for light rain. Best chances for snow will be late Wednesday into early Thursday over the north slopes, including Tejon Pass. Hopefully saying that right. Where significant blowing and drifting snow may cause near zero visibilities and very hazardous travel. High surf and coastal flooding are possible beginning late tonight and Wednesday for west and northwest facing beaches. Okay, so now let's go see if any of this rain and snow, or how much of it is going to make it down into Southern California. So clicking through, goes into Big Sur down through San Luis Obispo. That's 10 p.m. on Wednesday. And then it looks like it's done for the Central Coast by 1 a.m. on Thursday. But then you have some rain, light rain, move down to San Diego. And you do get some snow up in the mountains in Southern California. And then it's off. It doesn't last long, 10 a.m. on Thursday. So it looks like it's mostly overnight tonight and into early tomorrow morning. So in that aspect, it won't have as large of impacts as if it was in the middle of the afternoon or during commute times. Now let's check out total rainfall. Oh, actually, before we do that, we should see what the potential big storm is going to do. Remember, it just hovers up in Northern California for a while, so we can skip all the way to Saturday afternoon here. This is now Saturday 7 p.m., Saturday 10 p.m. That's where the heavy rain falls over the Central Coast. And then the low looked like it was moving off into Nevada. But then you'll have northwesterly winds pushing some of the moisture down. Moderate rainfall for San Luis Obispo overnight Saturday into early Sunday morning. And a little light rain finds its way into Southern California. It doesn't look like it's too much down there, though. So then if we check out total rainfall through the weekend, let's go all the way through Saturday and Sunday. San Diego 0.2, Salinas 0.6. Yeah, it looks like this is now more of a Northern California storm. That's kind of a bummer for a lot of those cities that we looked at that are still pretty well below average in terms of rainfall. But there's always silver lining. That means less impacts. So that's with this first system. Snow reaching down through the Southern Sierra. It's in the pink, so that's maybe 6 to 12 inches. And then with the second system, Yeah, not much of a difference there. And National Weather Service is calling for 2 to 5 inches. Yeah, that could be around 2 to 5 inches there. So, yeah, it looks like not much rain, not much snow for Southern California. Perhaps the larger impacts down in Southern California will be wind related. So let's look at these wind gusts. Looks like it's pretty gusty up in the Sierra right now. 51 mile per hour gusts. Also on the North Coast, 44 mile per hour gusts. And then I'd imagine some of these winds are going to be moving down into Southern California. That's going to be 4 a.m. on Thursday. Just get a marker on there, 47 mile per hour gusts, 51 mile per hour gusts. And when that happens, it can also get funneled through some of your canyons. And then that's where you can have some of the gusts that are 60 to 70 miles per hour. During wildfire season, that's terrible. During this time of the year, it can combine with the cold temperatures and lead to a larger wind chill factor. And then potentially that 2 to 5 inches of snow as well. Reduce some visibility up in the higher elevations. Yeah, so windy conditions down in Southern California. I'd say that's their top story for the day. So, yeah, let's actually also just look at how cold is Southern California going to get. Doesn't look like nearly as cold as Northern California. What about Friday morning? It's in the 30s, so that's cold for SoCal, but it's at least not in the teens like we are up in the Sierra. So I think we'll just go back to the radar real quick and see where some of that rainfall is right now. I'll just try to summarize what we learned. We have a system that you can see on this radar moving into California right now. It's just going to be some light rainfall for the Bay Area, Central Coast, if any of it finds its way down into Southern California. Rain-wise, not a big impact there. It does look like it's going to be very cold, though. So we have widespread frost advisories from the North Bay down through the Central Coast. And then it also looks like we have a pretty widespread coastal flood advisory because there's a combination of large surf and king tides. And the king tides are in some places up above 7 feet. So we'll see some flooding maybe between 9 a.m. and 12 tomorrow morning. Then on top of that, I'd say what is most likely the top story is up in the Sierra. That's where we could pick up 1 to 2 feet of snow, maybe 3 up in the highest elevations. It's going to be very windy. It's actually already very windy. And then with some gusts already around 40 to 50 miles per hour. And then that's going to have big impacts on travel, but it's also going to bring some much needed snow. And it's also going to be very cold up there, especially tomorrow morning. That's why the snowfall is so widespread. That's why those snow levels have dropped down to 2,000 to 3,000 feet, is because it's very cold out there, in some cases in the teens. It at least looks better than when we looked at it on Monday, when they were showing -4 for Truckee. Not showing that anymore. And then there's big updates. I keep saying and then. Big updates on the system moving in this weekend. The models have been all over the place with this one, so I'm not locking in any timing and totals just yet. But as of right now, it's saying that the low is just going to hover off of Northern California. It's going to continue to push in moisture into Northern California throughout, maybe starting Friday through Saturday. That's going to bring to some pretty heavy rainfall to the northwestern portions of the state, some ongoing snowfall for the higher elevations, and then eventually maybe Saturday night into Sunday timing, we'll see. Then it moves down into the Central Coast, but that could bring our weekly snow totals up to 3, potentially 4 feet in some of the highest elevations, and that one will bring more rain than this system moving in right now. But that's all I have time for today. I gotta go get off to work. I'll record a short form video kind of summarizing what's going on. And if you don't have time to watch whatever this ended up being, probably, I don't know how long this was, maybe like 30 minutes or something. If you don't have time for this, you can just watch my little short form video. That'll come out in maybe 2 or 3 hours, hopefully. So thanks for watching. Maybe see you all again tomorrow. If not then, definitely Friday, because I'll want to do an update for how the models change for that big storm this weekend. So hopefully this video was helpful, and thanks for watching.